the imposter game anymore.
I mean, you're describing Terrace precisely.
Phil,
I want to remind you that we're live, just so you know, guys. We are live.
And you're joking around, Phil, but imposter syndrome is real, and it is affects Black women the most.
I'm sorry.
In imposter syndrome, but it does. It affects Black women the most, and it says whenever, like what she's trying to explain, she explained it in her way. Imposter syndrome for me is always having to feel like you have to outwork everybody. It's just something you don't have to. You walk in the room and you feel like you just automatically have. It's imposter syndrome. It's a real thing. I mean, and it's very prevalent the most amongst Black women, and I have the most empathy for that.
Yeah, and it destroys situations. So I'll say this, that I had it and I got over it, because when you're a leader and you get to make decisions and you allow decisions to be made that didn't take everything into account, you own that. And so one day when we let someone go and I had to think through the fact we shouldn't have and all of that, I decided as a leader, I couldn't afford to do that. I couldn't afford to do it and sleep. So I decided never to allow anyone to make me feel that way again. And that's what, Troy, even when you were talking about the fight for equality for Black and white women, I'm okay with going toe to toe. I'll go toe to toe with anyone. You get what I'm saying? I can't feel like someone is better than me, but it makes me feel comfortable with everyone just treating people right. And I don't worry about the competition. And so that's why I didn't worry about immigration.
And I understand what you remember what I was saying about, especially us being in the room. I really get that. I get that. But I thought I take that as buzzwords with no action on my side of the aisle. Whenever people hear that, this gives them an excuse to say, "Oh well, they don't deserve that." My sisters, who is a nurse and has worked her butt off to get to where she's got, doesn't deserve it because of DEI. That makes me, so I would like to. That's why I say, let's take it off the table so we can. It can be worded something else, as long as these buzzword MAGA dog whistlers don't have nothing to stand on, because that's all they have. They have hatred and division, and it's coming to an end. I hope it's coming to an end.
I hope it's coming to an end too. And I'm going to try to quit saying to you that you helped cause that. And that's what's hard for me, is because we weren't so far apart before MAGA. I understood Republicans. I understood what I agreed with them, and I understood when I didn't, but there was still respect. But in MAGA, there is no respect. It is white supremacy.
Right. But I was a Republican before MAGA.
No, that's okay.
I've been a Republican for. I was because I want a voice in my Commonwealth during the primaries. So it's not just like I'm just willy-nilly. I just jumped on the MAGA train. I'm dealing with this within my party, the hijacking of MAGA within my party, just like you guys are dealing with it on your side. But it's infighting in here too. So
yeah, I get it. And Republicans, though, I would always tell Black Republicans that it's still a little sellout in you. And because in the Republican way, prior to MAGA, it is all about making organizations in corporate America strong so they can help feed the rest of us. And what I know about corporate America is they don't do us right. So when you're doing that, you're actually not helping people who look like us at all. And the data shows it. And it shows that every time the Republican Party was in office, our deficit went up. Corporations actually had more power to do us wrong. And we lost jobs all the time. And so even though financially, if you look at financially, I should be a Republican. I won't, because I won't sell our folks out. I won't, and I don't believe in just handouts. I believe in hand-ups, but I also believe that we owe ourselves more than you owe us. And once we show what we owe ourselves, you do owe us reparations. I think reparations are almost individual.
I wish we could get it. I agree with you. I'm a cash reparations. I'm pro cash reparations for Blacks that have bloodlines that did go back to slavery, not these people who come over here from Africa who ain't got no generations and been through slavery. That's why I don't, when I talk about Kamala Harris and how you guys accept her into the black race, she wouldn't be considered to be somebody who would get reparations for my, so that's where we delineate. I'm for cash reparations for people from descendants of slavery, not somebody from Africa, from Nigeria or Somalia or any of these people coming over. I'm talking about direct descendants of slavery. If you can't take your lineage back to the slaves and before civil rights here, if you don't have blood on this soil, you don't receive reparations point blank. And that's where it always gets muddy in the Congress. When I've seen it, from the highest person I've seen talk about reparations was Mitch McConnell, is he said, who are we going to pay?
Can I just say one thing? Can I say one thing? Kevin, I just want to say what, Kevin, are we interrupting your lunch?
Yes.
Okay.
But that's okay.
Okay.
It happens every Tuesday and Friday.
Hey, everybody.
Right.
What's up?
And just for the record, Phil has imposter syndrome as well. He's always posing as somebody competent. So that's the imposter syndrome for Phil.
Say that again. Holding somebody. What? What was the rest of that?
No, I said posing as someone who's competent.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. That, sir, is not true. I consider myself strongly incompetent. So that is not true.
So do I. So oh my God, we're on the
And so
same
do I.
page.
And so do I.
I'm saying
I
you
consider
agree
him
that
that.
I'm incompetent and you're
Yeah.
incompetent.
Yeah, you.
Oh, well, thank
Yeah,
you.
I was agreeing with
See,
you.
Kevin, I'm not.
Phil,
an
one
imposter.
other
They
thing.
all say I'm incompetent, so I'm not an imposter.
Yeah.
So one other thing, Phil,
Uh-oh.
that'll change your view on reparations, because I think you might be able to get a check now. You've been hanging around us black folks so long. I think enough of it is rubbed off on you that you might qualify for reparations. So maybe that'll change your.
Oh, well, hey, now that you mention that, if there's a financial incentive, I'm all for it. Okay, I'm with you.
We got right to go cash a check and he'd want his percentage or something, like he'd throw us under the bridge some way. Like, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be getting these checks. I need my 10%, 15%. Just joking, Phil.
All right, you guys. I'm going to put you backstage and we'll start the show. Yep. Thanks for being here, everybody, for the pre-show. Put everybody backstage. bring the screen down. There it is. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Friday to you. I think you can all hear me. Got a great panel for you today. Great crew today. Alandis Powell, good to see you. Thanks for coming back. How are you?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Great, great. Michelle Dunn, thank you for your time today. How are you?
Hey, great. Good. Thanks.
Yep. Sexy Phil, how you doing, sir?
My pleasure to be here.
Terrace Horton, the elephant in the room.
I'm sharing. I'm liking and sharing. I'm glad to be here on our season finale. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And my partner in this endeavor, Kevin Aldridge, the voice of reason. How you doing, voice of reason?
Good. Happy Friday, everybody.
Absolutely. There's something going on with your camera, Kevin, but it sounded good and was all synced up when you were speaking. So appreciate it. And then we can't forget our 7th crew member today. That's the chat. How is everybody? Hope you're doing well. Black Lion was here first. He writes, "What's good, everyone? Good to see you." Deanna, good to see you. And Carolyn, what's up, Darren? Darren says he's going to call in. Cool. There's the link. It's at the top of the chat on Facebook and on YouTube if you want to tap in.
Excuse me, if I may say, I'm a little ticked off
Sure.
about this Simba guy or woman, whatever, who says that Michelle is a more reasonable individual than Phil Heimlich. I resent that. I don't think that's true.
You do resemble that. You do resemble that. Let's jump straight into it. So yesterday, one of our illustrious crew members was one of the moderators at the Hamilton County Commissioners debate. It was a partnership, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, between the Cincinnati Public Radio folks and the folks over at the Cincinnati Enquirer. And very interesting, a lot of question marks. And of course, the juicy part about this is you got Mika Owens, who just ran for city council and won, who is now challenging the incumbent, Stephanie Summerall Dumas. Even more controversy is it appears, I guess not appears, it is that due to Mika's influence, the Hamilton County Party decided to not endorse in that race, which kind of opens up the field. So I didn't watch all of it, but I watched nearly all of it. I thought it was very, very interesting. But I want to go to Kevin and give me your impressions as the moderator. How was it last night?
Yeah, I thought it was a good debate. I thought it was a good spirited debate. It kind of started out a little bit slow, as debates can sometimes, but I think as we got into some of the questions, you started to see particularly Mika and Stephanie Summerall Dumas kind of jockeying back and forth. You know, Dumas trying to defend her decisions and positions while talking about why she needs to be back. And then, of course, Mika being very aggressive, as I think she needs to be in this campaign, to try to show, you know, what separates her from the incumbent. I think I even give, Herman DeJoly a little bit of credit. You know, he slipped in a few jabs last night in the debate. I think he was kind of like the one wild card that I wasn't quite sure how he would do. Mika and Stephanie did what I expected. And I thought Herman was prepared and did what he could. Obviously, he's, a super long shot, I think, in this race. I don't think anybody reasonably expects that he'll win, but he could play a role in, diminishing enough votes between the two of them to make a difference. But it'll be interesting. I think, there are a couple of more debates. I think they're coming up, the Urban League and the NAACP as well. And my hope is that they'll be able to build on what we did last night and take it to another level. Because there were a lot of questions that we didn't get into, obviously, when you only got an hour for a debate. That leaves a limited amount of time where you can get in. And, what I'd love to be able to see other debates do is kind of not rehash the same questions, but, try to challenge the candidates in different ways in which we weren't able to get into in our hour, so that, that voters get more of a view of where these candidates stand. Because that's sometimes what tends to happen. Everybody does debates and these people kind of get asked the same questions, right? Mm-hmm. I think it serves voters better if in these debates you can try to build on each other and get them to answer some different things, because as I said, we just scratched the surface last night and there's a lot more meat out there for these folks to answer.
Anybody else's impression or a general impression about this race in general? Or are you leaning toward a candidate or away from a candidate? What do you think?
Well, I gotta be honest, I didn't watch I didn't watch the whole thing. However, I was included in a number of text chains that were discussing it, so I felt like I was watching it because I was doing something else. You know, for me, I just don't really understand the challenger. I just don't understand the challenge to Dumas from Councilwoman Owens. You know, it's meaning I don't think she has made a case of a challenge. Like, you know, I'm just not compelled by what I'm hearing about why she's running. There's no real major contrasts. It's just odd to me. Like, she just got elected. She was one of the top vote getters, actually, for city council. It's another 2-year term. I think myself and many other Democrats who are the ones voting in these primaries between these people, right? This is a Democratic primary. I think the question is, we just don't get it. Like, why the challenge, and what are you going to deliver? What are you going to do different? And here's the problem for Councilwoman Owens, as I see it, is that you are an incumbent at City Hall. So everything you say about what you want to do, I think we're listening through a lens that says, well, why aren't you doing it now at City Hall? Like, if you're going to do all this as a county commissioner, what are you doing at City Hall to show that you're going to do this on the county commission? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's an added challenge for her, I would say. That's all I got on that, I would say.
I'll offer a perspective from, you ask why someone would do that. Running for city council, if I'm not mistaken, is every 2-year term. You have to do it every 2 years. And if you do Hamilton County Commissioner, it's every 4 years. So that's one added advantage if you're trying to climb the political ladder. So you don't have to do so much campaigning. You have a bigger.
There's no term limit either.
And, yeah, right. So once you get in, getting a city, I know over in Kentucky, getting a county commissioner, getting a county commissioner seat it's like a ticket to be in the politics for as long as you want to. Same as if you get on city council, you have to do something really messed up to get knocked off. So it's just elevating, and she's just jumping up to the next level, in my opinion. So I don't think it has anything to do with party or anything, but her wanting to move up in politics and finding a better way to do it and invoke change. You can get more done in a 4-year term than you can a 2-year term, and then have to keep going back and campaigning every 2 years. Your seat being up every 2 years is something that I could see. It's a good move.
Well, that's not a very compelling reason for voters.
Yeah, I think probably a more realistic answer, and I'm not saying that what Tara says isn't applicable. I think probably what's a more realistic answer is that you got to take a look at, perhaps who's behind Mika Owens, right? I think like there's a sense that there may be some forces that, may want Dumas out of the way, who may see her as vulnerable or a weak link, or in some other interest pocketbook, and they want to get that out of the way. I mean, it is somewhat rare to see what we're seeing in this case. And it does kind of make you think that there might not be something, maybe more than just political ambition behind it. I don't have any evidence of that. I'm just speculating here on what might be behind it. I mean, I think an examination of both of their fundraising and campaign finance might reveal, a little bit more about some of the motivations behind it. So that's just purely speculation on my part.
Well, I did notice, and maybe it was just me, and I get if people didn't get a chance to watch it all. I totally understand it, even for the conversation. But Kevin, there was one question that you asked, and I thought it was just me. It just seems like that Mika Owens didn't answer it. It was a question about, and it was a question that you should be asked. It was like, so what's the difference between the two of you? And I think you asked specifically in terms of policy. Tell us, what would you have done differently? And her response, I'm looking for, because that's, to me, that's the $1 million question. How are you different? Yeah. And I didn't hear a response.
I will say it was, and I don't think it was just that question, Nathan. I mean, I felt like there were a couple of questions last night that Owens kind of did, what politicians do sometimes, answer without actually answering the question and trying to get clarity. And so, I think Michelle's commentary is kind of like spot on. I mean, if Mika's going to win, she's got to more clearly define the differences between her and Dumas. It's like, why change? It's like the people who come over from my lawn service. They're trying to get me to switch from True Green to some local guy. And I'm like, well, what are you going? My lawn's already, I'm pretty good with what they're doing with my lawn. How are you going to be able to do better? Or are you cheaper? Or you got to tell me something. You got to have a compelling case to make me change from what I'm comfortable with. And so I think that's the challenge for Owens, which she's got to do a better job moving forward, is saying, why do voters have to change from somebody that they've elected twice now, right? Because a reelection is kind of a bit of a stamp that says we're good with the job that you're doing, right? If they send you back, the first election might be, let's try something different. A reelection is generally kind of an affirmation of that a candidate is doing a pretty good job in the eyes of the voters. So, yes, you were correct. I think not just the question you were mentioning there, but I think there was one other occasion that I can recall where I was kind of like, she didn't really answer the question.
Yeah, she dodged it, and like you said, did that thing that people do. And there's an art form to it. I think she dodged it very well, but she definitely dodged it. I'm like, well, here's your opportunity to tell us why you're different and really make that case. But what do I know? I'm not in politics. What do you think, Alandis?
I just thought that it showed the difference between a veteran leader and what's considered now an emerging leader. Because when you look at Mika, she's put herself in the emerging spot with the fact that she got 40,000 votes. Now she wants to go do something else, but she's up against a veteran leader. And to be quite honest, when it looks at skills and ability, what Mika's shown is she's done okay at the city level. I'm not going to say great, because you'd have to look at all the things she championed and what she did to really say it's great. I'll let everyone decide that on their own. And then you're up against going from a city county level, and you just got the job, right? It's almost like you tricked the voters because you made some promises and you never planned on doing them because you went right out and went for this job. So it was a very thought out process that she did. I can't get over that piece. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's a problem for me as a voter. But I think what's the real thing is Dumas is veteran. She knows what she's doing. She has done a good job, right? She's actually balanced. I'm not saying she does everything perfect, right? But when you look at it, you ask the question, and I'll go back to what Kevin said. What is in it for Mika, and who is supporting her? That's drive, because it wasn't just her thought, if you ask me. It had to be influence, right? And I guess we'll wait and see, but I can't understand the reason why. But I don't think she has the skill sets that Stephanie has. And it'll take us back for a minute. You know what I'm saying? In that it'll take us back. And we have had some good positive changes in Hamilton County with the current group. We really have. So that's my take.
That's a very good point you're making, because let's remember, this is a primary on one side, one party. Whoever emerges is going to have to win that seat against a Republican contender. And so all the more reason to have a strong candidate out there in those municipalities. And honestly, I think Mika's going to lose handily, because I don't think she has the recognition and the respect that Dumas has worked for decades to build out in those outer municipality areas of our county. Yep. And so for that reason, another calculation is, am I going to vote for the person as a Democrat that I think is most likely to retain that seat for the Democratic Party? Then once they now have to go up against a Republican out there in those somewhat red, areas of our county. So there's a lot riding on this. And, I got to say, and this is, maybe more fussing about Mika, but something that's always gotten under my skin about Mika Owens is when she first ran, and I know and I listened because I was in the same field race when she first ran. So I heard her a lot, her stump speech. And I feel like I just heard it on the West Side Dems a few months ago. And it was like the same stump speech as she gave like in 21. It was kind of odd to me. But she called herself a community organizer. And she's always done that. And it's just not true. I mean, that means something to a lot of people. And just because you got elected to an office does not mean you are out there serving as a community organizer on the issues important to you. And I just haven't seen it. And I just feel irritated every time she calls herself that. I just have to say that.
Can I ask a question? Is Stephanie Dumas, is she a part of a Greek letter organization? Do you know if she is or not?
Yeah,
if she is?
I believe so. Yes.
What difference does that make?
The sorority support is big. I mean,
Michelle made a great point. I think that's a very strong point about performance in the suburban areas, and that cannot be overlooked. Like if you can't, like Mika could potentially run strong in Cincinnati, but this is a Hamilton County commission race, which requires you to have name recognition and presence in areas outside of the city proper. And I don't know that Mika Owens has that in the same way that Stephanie Dumas has it. I think that might not even be like a biased thing to say. That might actually be a fact, not just like speculation or conjecture. It might actually be a fact that Dumas has more weight out in the suburban areas of around the city of Cincinnati that Owens just might not be able to make that up.
People, Jacqueline writes, messy Mika is not to be trusted. Lakita writes, my biggest issue is that people are upset about Mika running after being elected, but what about Seth, who is running statewide for a position? It's acceptable for men, but not women.
No,
that's not true. Seth Walsh has been raked over the coals for that as well. It's like he's not escaped scrutiny for doing the exact same thing. So that's not.
And I do see what Lakita is saying, but I don't think in this regard, at least for me personally, I looked at anyone who did this. Here's the problem with Mika and everyone. So let's say she wins. We are not getting the work that we need done in city council that people voted for her to do. And if she wins this, we will not get any work from her. How fair is that? So that's my first thing. How fair? The second thing is, if she doesn't win, what does that do for her strategically and longer term? So even who's in her camp talking to her about doing this, I don't think they were setting her up for success. Do you understand? Because I don't know what happens to her if she doesn't win this, if she'll ever be on city council, if someone comes and starts talking about mayor. She's kind of shooting herself in the foot in this regard, if you ask me. So I'm not even sure she's getting great counsel. And I would say that I'm not going to be ugly and talk about all the pink, but somebody needs to have her change that too, because it doesn't allow you to take her as serious as you need to. Sometimes, am I making?
I mean, like in terms of her wardrobe and
everything.
When you went off camera, I'll ask that question, Atlantis. When you went off camera, I said, "Is Stephanie a part of a Greek letter organization?" And Nathan asked me why. Michelle said it matters because of support, and then you're backing it up for what you're saying. You're saying it in a nicer way. I was like, if you want to get to the root of it, start looking at the Greek organizations behind it, and then you'll find out something. Some of the.
I don't know if that's what she is. I thought someone told me she sold Mary Kay and that's why the pink was there. I'm not trying to figure out that. Like what I'm saying though is that.
But it's her signature though. It's
it
makes it makes her stand out, I guess, or you remember her.
Yeah, but remembering people isn't all you need to do. And sometimes to be taken seriously, you step up to the next thing. She had a lot to step over. After she did what she did in selecting who took the place of Reggie, there was a lot to unpack even there. I have actually supported Mika with dollars before. And I've gone for some help before to help navigate something. And Her response to me was like, I appreciate it. Let me see what my constituents are going to do. I ain't never mess with her again after that, because if you need to ask your friends whether you stand up for me, right, to see what they think, that's not what I voted for. I voted for individuals who can look up what's going on and drive things based on that. You shouldn't have to ask your friends if you agree, if that's making sense as a leader. So
Did
I
she
have,
get back to you on that issue? How was that resolved to your satisfaction? What,
yeah,
without
but
all
I
the
went,
details?
but I go around people, right? But I did, I listened to what she said and I respected her opinion, that it was her opinion. But you get my saying, if I go to you and I need 5 votes to make something happen, and I go to you, and nothing to do with the money I gave, but I go to you and I lay it out, and you say, I understand. She asked me great questions. And then she said, let me get back with you. I need to ask the other folks in city council. Even you, if you planned on doing that, you shouldn't have told me that. Because I'm like, stand up on your own 2 feet and tell me what you think, what you gonna be driving. Are you gonna be driving for me or against you? Are you just asking questions? So, and I'm not saying I'm the only person who's gone through that, because a number of people have told me that. I'm just talking about my experience. So you have that. You have to think that I think sometimes, even if it's your branding, sometimes you have to stand up a little more. And then the third thing is, if you don't win, what does that do to you? Does that make sense? Like, what does that really do to you? Are we
Nothing.
ever going to support her again?
Well, if she loses, she stays on council, right?
I understand, but what's next for her? Because right
Right.
now
I
she was
understand.
she was considered an emerging leader. If she loses this, is she an emerging leader?
I think it depends on how she loses.
Yeah.
If she gets boat raced, then that looks bad. If she loses in a close race, you know, and that can vary on what you think is close. But I think if she puts up a good fight and it's a close race, it's like, well, she lost to the incumbent. I mean, let's not forget, Stephanie Dumas is the incumbent, which means you're kind of the favorite right now. She should be the favorite. She should be the front runner because she's won
And
twice.
she,
So
she
I
should
think
have been endorsed by the party, which is a
yeah,
whole other
Yeah,
topic.
but
and
yeah,
that was one of the questions I regret we didn't get to last night because we were
Mhm.
going to get into that. We were going to ask the candidates about that party endorsement process, and we didn't.
Mhm.
We simply ran out of time because I think the answers to that would have been interesting as well coming from the
Well,
candidates.
Dumas was pretty spilled the tea quickly, easily, and vociferously out at the West Side Dems meeting when that came up. In fact, I think she brought it up herself. I don't think anybody even asked her about it. She feels very insulted by that process, as she should, because it's
mhm.
unheard of, um, honestly. And so this feeds into this question of Owens's candidacy and who's behind it and what are the motives and what's really going on, which I just don't think is good really for the candidate. If you can't on the face of it say, I am the candidate who's going to deliver X, Y, and Z. I am the change candidate. I'm not the incumbent. I'm a challenger, and this is why I'm challenging. And she hasn't done that. And so it's left this vacuum, this void, which people kind of just then their wheels spin like, well, what's really going on? Like, who's really behind this? Like, what are the special interests backing her? And yeah, everybody's going to be pulling that finance report as soon as it hits the Secretary of State, probably to see who's been writing her checks. It's just it's not the best situation to be in, but
So
it's of her own creation. I mean, she let it happen. So
yeah, Kevin, I want to go back to you saying if it's close and she loses. That's not even my point. My point is this, is that she ran for city council and she made promises and she said a lot to get people to give her money and to vote for her, right? And she won. And within 30 days, she showed us what she was really going for, right? So no matter what happens, if she's still on city council and running for something next, you don't think people are going to remember that?
Oh, sure.
That's
Yeah. There's no question about that. I mean, look, Mika's got a lot. She's got a lot that she's got to work through. So I
yeah.
kind of try to look at a lot of different things. So everybody was like, when she made the decision to put Evan Nolan in place of Reggie, the conversation was, oh, Mika's in trouble. I'm not going to vote for Mika. How is she going to turn out in the city council election? What, she get the second or third most votes in the city council race despite that? So all of that noise that people was talking about how damaged Mika was by the Evan Nolan thing did not pan out in terms of how people voted. So all I'm saying is we all have speculation and conjecture on what we think, but it comes down to your money and your ability to churn out your voters. And she evidently was able to do that in the city council race to where it offset all of that negativity that was out there about what she did. You can't argue with that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there are factors that depend, that make it dependable. Not saying she doesn't have hurdles that she doesn't have to overcome, but I think that with the right backing, with the right amount of money, you can overcome a lot of that. So I would not.
Let me chime in real quick on that endorsement thing, because I know that came up a question. I don't see Mika as doing anything wrong with asking, but it's not the candidate's fault or what happened. It's the process that allowed it to happen. Mika played the part that she's supposed to. She got, that's what she was supposed to do. And as opposed to sitting back and waiting, she called her people who were precinct executives. That's what you're supposed to do. Call your people who are precinct executives and got them there to the meeting. I think Stephanie, it was recommended for her to get the endorsement. I think she relied on that recommendation as opposed to doing some work and pushback, because she knew that Mika is a good campaigner. If you know that she's a good campaigner, you should have never have relied on a recommendation. You should have made sure that you had your ducks in a row. You should have made sure your people was there to vote, and therefore it wouldn't have happened. We're blaming Mika, and I don't think that that's fair to blame her for that particular thing. I think she did what she was supposed to, because someone asked me, well, she wouldn't have done it to Alicia. No, she wouldn't have done it to Alicia. You know why? Because Alicia would never have accounted on that recommendation. Alicia would have made sure her people were there to make sure it didn't happen. And so that's what I think Stephanie should have done. On this other thing about Nate, you brought up the pink. The pink is her Mary Kay signature. She's not in a sorority. I think asked that. No, she's not in a sorority. It's that Mary Kay thing. And so she calls herself a community organizer, I think because of her background with being the Mary Kay signature. So she feels like she can, bring people together. She also worked at the county. Now, having said that, I think Stephanie needs to step up and can actually run a better campaign and can beat Mika. I just don't think that it's okay to sit back and say that because someone's in that seat that other person has to wait. My problem with the whole thing is that you just got elected.
Yes.
And I understand you have ambitions to run, but you just got elected and you were out there campaigning, and you should have stayed focused on that. That's her and Seth. I don't think that that's right. I mean, you haven't even been in that. You would not even got sworn in, and you already have ambitions on running for another seat. And I think that's what my problem is not so much that she's coming after Stephanie or anything like that, because I don't think if she's seen it as Stephanie, that's a seat, and she feels like that's an opportunity for her to move up. I don't see that, because let's be clear, white boys do it all the time, and I'm just gonna be honest. I know, Phil, you shook your head, but it's true. Y'all tell, and that's the part that I do respect.
The fact that you would call me a boy, that makes me feel good. It's an old man.
I just. My thing is they do it all the time. They'll come into a position and they'll tell you what they want and what their ambitions are, and what they expect. And I don't see nothing wrong with that. However, the problem is that you just got elected and you should have stayed in that seat. Now, to Alandis, I totally agree. When I was on council, someone came and asked me for my help. I'm not going to say, well, let me go back and ask my friends. No. If you asking good questions, and my thing is because I know your background, I know what programs you bring, I'm not going to sit there and ask somebody else, can I support it? I'm going to support it because I know it's the right thing to do. And I do agree with you on there. That's I don't understand what that was about. That was tomfoolery to me, that response. If you were not going to support it, just say you don't support it. Don't tell people to BS. I got to go ask somebody. Just say, no, I don't support it, and move on. That way you could have moved on instead of sitting there looking at her like, what? You going to ask somebody? I don't buy that. And I've heard that far too often about this council not standing up and saying what they're going to do. They got to go ask somebody else. Ask somebody else. You the one elected. You don't know what you don't know if you support the program or the project yourself.
Yeah,
Hey,
I do
Lakita.
want to go back to what Kevin, what all of you guys said. I am not like saying that she doesn't have a right to run for whatever. I'm just saying that if she doesn't make it, this is the next thing against Mika, believe it or not. Now it is somebody that she has because she did get 40,000 votes. She was able to get it, but like, what's the next nasty taste in your mouth if she does run for mayor? And how do people believe her when she made phone calls to get you to vote for her, only to know a month later she was going for this next job? So right now, she hasn't really been doing her job and keeping her commitments to the people who voted for her. How is that going to look if she loses and then run for mayor? Are we going to
Mm.
soon? And to your point, Kevin, I know we're feeling like she got through it, even with what she did before. But I will tell you, we did not turn out and vote. And that's one of the things that we don't do as well. And probably one of the things she knows is because we don't stand up and vote sometimes. If we did, I don't know that she would have won at that high of a level.
Alandis,
But
trust me, Mika is not the only one who
yeah,
knows that we don't
I
turn out
know.
and vote. Like
Yep.
that's common knowledge across politics. And again, that's why when you ask why don't black voices matter more in Cincinnati and in the county, well, it's for that exact calculation. They know we don't show up and vote in the numbers necessary to where they have to consider your voice to that certain degree. And if you want to change that, and this is not just conversation for black folks in Cincinnati, but everybody who doesn't vote in these local elections. You get the government that you deserve, and that's what you turn out for. The only other thing that I would add to what Lakita said, the other reason why she would never try that against Alicia Lakita is because she wouldn't beat Alicia. Make no
That
mistake. Make no mistake. She sees Dumas as a target, as somebody who's gettable. She knows Alicia Reese is not gettable, so that would have
that's
never even been a thought process to challenge Alicia.
that's
All
true.
right. All right, let's move on. So Christopher Smitherman is back, and he is pushing a charter amendment that would change the balance of power inside of the city manager's office. His amendment would take away the power that the current city manager has to hire and fire the police and fire chief, and would give that power and responsibility to city council. Now, some people are saying this is a great idea because it will take the politics out of it. Other people are saying it'll make it more political. What do you think? What do you
I'm
think?
gonna say this: they got to if they know how to do their job, they have that anyway. I remember, how we got Twitty was because of Dwight, and Dwight wasn't the mayor; he was a member of city council, and we had that city manager form of government then, where the city manager is the one who chose the director. So to me, if you have a very good city manager, you're going to listen to and weigh in on the council members as it is. So I'm not sure how that works. The whole point of having you don't take the politics out of it by having council members involved. Actually, that creates the politics by having them involved. I think it's the problem is not the policy that's in place. I think it's the city manager that's in place is the problem.
Interesting. What do you guys think? So you're a no on this idea?
Uh, um, it's right now, yes, I need to hear more about that because I don't understand I don't understand the premise behind it because we haven't had an issue in the past with who we hire as a police chief or the fire chief until this point. The reason why we have this again is because they hired a city manager from North College Hill, this little bitty old city, to come in and take over this, and I think unfortunately she's in over her head.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of having that power in council's hands because I think it just makes it even more political than what it is. I mean, if you are a police chief or if you are any kind of administrator where your job is in the hands of politicians to decide your hiring and firing, that's not a job that's very attractive, in my opinion. because it has little to do with how effective you actually are, but how bendable those politicians are to the interests and the people who may not like what you're doing or how you're doing the job, not because you're not doing the job correctly, but because you're not serving their interests. And I just don't trust, I don't think you should trust those types of jobs to politicians.
Yeah, and if you think about it, so um, I have a different take when it comes to our city manager, and I do think that she's had to do some very, very big stuff and close some really things that happened in the past, and I think she did a good job with it. I would tell you though, if they decide to go to city council to do it, city council supports her. I don't know if you guys have looked at how they've
Yeah.
rated her. City council knows a lot more than we do of what's going on and the decisions she's had to make. And they haven't been popular decisions, which normally means you're thinking through and doing a good job at it because they know more than we do when it comes to some of these decisions that she's had to make. And she could have gone to for the popular side to make everyone feel like she's doing okay are the right thing. So no matter what happens, city councils have backed her in a big, big way. I've had to go to the city manager for things. And what I'll tell you is at least she'll listen, right? Weigh it up and talk through it. None of us are perfect. And I'm not going to say she's been perfect, but doing this, what Smitherman is doing, isn't going to change anything because they support her in a big way. Go look at what they've said about the job that she's been doing. And when you looked at, I'm not going to say whether the police chief should have a job or the fire chief and all of that, but when you put it in the hands of politicians, your performance shouldn't be the political piece. It will be about managing other people, leadership. Does that make sense? And so I don't know that it belongs in the hands of city council. And I don't think it's going to make a difference if it is right now.
No. I think Smitherman is just, putting out. I think someone said it in the comments, Armand Powell probably. Smitherman likes to stay relevant. It's just something he's throwing out there to get his name out, to stay relevant. And it's a hot topic. And I think, the fact is, this is a civil servant type job, right? A civil service job. And to put it directly under council completely politicizes it. And it would be a bad direction to go. And I'm sure Chris probably agrees. I think he's just getting it out here to keep the conversation going and keep himself somewhat on the tip of the tongue, so to speak.
Yeah, Phil, what do you think?
I think it's a terrible idea. People need to make up their minds. Do you want a strong mayor form of government or do you want a city manager form?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, when I was on, we put that amendment on. We moved a little more toward a strong mayor with the separate election and all that. But I mean, I can just imagine city council voted on the police chief or fire chief, whatever. I mean, the candidates for work, would they be promising this guy? How do I get a majority? Well, I better give this to this guy, and I'm going to promise this to this guy and this to that person. I mean, it's you'll end up with somebody who's so indebted to the majority of the politicians that they won't be very competent in their job. I mean, and also, I think there's an important in a city need for, as they say, the buck stops here. Okay, now, right now, for a police chief, fire chief, it's a city manager. Okay, now, granted, he's subject to being fired by the mayor council, but nonetheless, it's one person who makes that decision. Okay, if you go to a strong mayor, it's the mayor who makes the decision. But at least you have somebody who's accountable and who makes that decision. And if you're going to say that, oh well, it's good for council to decide the police and fire chief, where does it stop? What about the head of economic development? What about the assistant deputy city manager? I mean, if it's the right way to go, they should be deciding all this stuff. So yeah, I don't think it's a good idea at all.
All right. Anybody else? Terrace, any thoughts?
Nah, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, just sitting on city council, and that's what I don't understand about the mayor, the strong mayor. I don't know what kind of government Cincinnati has, so I don't want to speak on it. I know what we have over here, and I really don't understand why he's doing it. So don't even want to speak on it because I know what'll happen. Y'all try to lump me into some old Hamilton County Republican stuff that I don't know nothing about. Just because I'm a Republican and I don't agree with none of that stuff. So I don't know nothing about it. One of them, and I'll say this on record, one of them, I ain't gonna say the name, contacted me last week and was like, yeah, man, this is what we're doing. They sent me this initiative, this particular one. And I was just like, and I replied back, I'm a Dayton, Kentucky city councilman, and I have no further aspirations to move any further. And I left it at that. But I'll say, moving forward, if I would be like, I don't need no new people coming on me talking about these initiatives in Hamilton County. If it doesn't affect my constituency over in Kentucky, I wouldn't jump on they were like, oh, we know this person and this person and this person. And I was like, man, you guys must have not done your research about how much I do not give a F about any of that stuff. I wanted to tell them, so I just want to make sure that you see me as a Republican, but I'm a Commonwealth of Kentucky Republican. I don't got nothing to do with any of that stuff over there. So whatever they're doing, I don't even want to be lumped into it.
So let me get this right though, real quick, and I'll say this. We can move on to the next topic. The city council is responsible for, they evaluate the city manager, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
And so the mayor has the power to get rid of the city manager, but does that have to go through council?
Yeah, I think I forgive me for
Yes.
interrupting. I think it does have to go through city council. I think it does.
Yes.
Am I
Okay.
It
right?
does.
So,
But only the mayor can bring up the firing and hiring of the city manager.
okay.
However, they can do a vote of no confidence, which I don't think they even realize they can do. But
So basically, the bottom line is the city manager is essentially kind of an extension of the mayor and city council, based on the fact that they can hire and fire her and they evaluate her, to some degree. So therefore, they already kind of have
Yes.
a certain sense of say to a degree over a lot of the decisions that the city manager makes, which I imagine is in consultation with council. It's unnecessary. It's a bad idea. I think it's better to have the buck stop with one person in the city manager than to have it, rest on the whims of, multiple council people and the politics and all the things that Phil mentioned. All this does is, I mean, people are going to be dissatisfied no matter how you do it when something is happening that they don't agree with, right? Like what this really gets down to is whether or not you think the police chief should be fired or not. But like that's the whole thing, and whether you agree with this process and how it's been going on. But I think there's one important thing that Iris mentioned last time she was on here that I don't think the city talks about enough, because so much is being made about what a mess this is with DG and all of that. She's following the charter, right? Like, this is what the charter calls for. And Iris pointed out that when they ushered Blackwell out of Cincinnati, he got none of this, right? And so as a result of how he was treated, you've got these charter policies and procedures that now, unfortunately, Blackwell didn't benefit from it, but DG is getting the due process that maybe even Washington, the fire chief, didn't get, which, you remember, city manager got her hand slapped for that. So you can be critical of how long this is taking and what they're doing, but in reality, this is a due process that they do need to follow, and that they are following, and that is a part of the city charter. So for all of those people out there who, and I get it, it does look like a mess. It's not a great look. I won't argue that. But it's a bad look that's a part of the process that's in the city charter. So that's an important point that I don't think we should overlook.
Yeah, for me, I'm with everybody else. I just don't like the idea. I think that there are political forces out there that don't like the current, mayor and his office. And I think the fact that the city manager is a black woman doesn't make it any harder for people to find a reason to not like it. And I think it would be a terrible idea. It would further politicize. I think you guys already spoke to it, so we seem to be in agreement on that one on some levels, perhaps. Minus Lakita, who feels like the city manager is doing a terrible job. Have you guys come around? Have you? I know Kevin, you were critical too.
I
Have you
did
guys
not
come
say a
around?
terrible job, but I think she can be. I think she's in over her head. I
Have
wouldn't
you
say
guys
terrible, but I do think
in
she's in
over
over
her
her head.
head?
And let me clarify my position. I said it numerous times. I had an issue with the glowing review, and that's different than
Exactly.
saying she's not doing a good job. She could be doing a fine job,
Mm.
but glowing review, in my opinion, overlooks a lot of these challenges that she's had
Exactly.
in some of these situations, right? And
Mm.
so that was my only criticism. Not saying she's doing a bad job; she could be doing a fine, but glowing, I don't know if I would go that far to say that. And that doesn't mean that she's doing a terrible job. I just don't think she's doing a glowing job.
Oh,
Agreed.
okay.
I
Oh, okay.
totally agree.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to make sure I got you guys on the record because I know y'all was critical last time we talked about her. I think all of this
Yeah.
stuff is just politically motivated, and her race and I'll say it again, her race and gender make her even more of a target because there's people out there, and we don't like to say it, that don't want to report to a black woman.
And
Period.
yeah,
Mm.
and
They got a real problem with that.
I feel like you're covering up the real issue because of the race and gender.
What
You
issue?
know, my
no,
thing is that there has been some issues, and I don't agree that it should be glowing.
What issue?
And that's just where I'm at. I mean,
What issue?
look at the issues was look at the police chief, look at the fire chief. We just had this discussion about them, and so to me, that does not warrant glowing review to me.
But you
okay.
said look at it. What do you mean? So I again, I hear people. It's like what it's damned if she do, damned if she don't. So if you're a leader and you hire somebody and they don't stand up to what you hired them to do, aren't you supposed to get rid of them? Isn't that what leaders are supposed to do? It's like I don't know enough about what happened with the fire chief, but I do know enough to know there's probably a lot more that we don't know about that. But that's leadership. Same thing with the police chief. And I believe the police chief was already here before she came in, right? So if she's dealing with somebody else's hire. But isn't that what leadership does? Like if you're on a job and you feel like somebody's not doing what you want them to do, you supposed to keep them forever? No. You get
And
rid of them and you get somebody in who you feel like is going, handle the job. That's the reality of employment and leadership, right? Am I wrong? What am I missing? I know I'm
look,
missing something.
so this is what I'm gonna say. The city council did her performance review, and it was done in March of 2026. And they actually had to rate her on like 8 or 10 categories, different categories. One of the first ones I looked like that I thought was important, and you can look it up, was public safety. And they actually rated her high on that because she had 12.5% reduction in shootings in his first year. So they had to use data to actually quantify the work that she had done. Now, what happens is the media actually takes one thing, they blow it up, and it starts making us think that we had a lot more than we did. But when you look at the data that she was up against, they showed data that said why they gave her a vote of confidence, and that she's the right person for the job. That's just one thing. So I do think we owe it to ourselves to look and see what they said about her performance, because I agree. Sometimes we look at Black women and we just think it's a problem. And sometimes on the reverse, I look at Black women and want to make sure they're doing
Okay.
great.
Let me just say, I'd be happy. Let me
So
just
we
say,
can
I
work
would be happy.
both
I'd be
ways.
happy. I'd be happy to report to any of the Black women on this podcast, including Nicole,
Well,
just for the record.
You
Okay.
will?
You can
Here's
say
what I
that
would
now.
say on that, and I'm
They're not hiring Phil.
Oh, I kind of
in
needed a
responding
side
to
hustle. That's
Alandis,
disappointing.
yeah.
So
In responding to Alandis's comments, she made a good point, and I think I said this when we were discussing this. City council evidently had their own criteria and their own measurables that they were using to determine her performance. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the same measurables that everybody is using. Now, it only matters because city council has the final say. But I think if you're someone in the public who's looking at this and you're looking at certain things and you're saying, hey, the city manager is not cutting the mustard on that, that can be a fair evaluation of her. It just might not be a criteria or something that city council evaluated. It doesn't make the criticism of her any less valid. I mean, look, I'm not somebody who tries to make their determinations based on like or dislike for somebody's personality or anything. I like to look at the performance, and that's really all you should be looking at. And to me, you get all of this race stuff out of the way when you look simply at the performance. What's measured? What are you comparing this city manager to past city managers in terms of the job that they do, right? And to me, if you're evaluating a person on those measures, then gender, race, all of that, you can't cry about it, because if I have certain measures and benchmarks and I'm not hitting them, those are simple measurements that have nothing to do with your gender or your race or anything like that. So that's how I make my determinations about how I'm feeling about this. To answer Vernon's question, he asked me, he said, Kevin, who exactly slapped the city manager's hand for Washington's firing? The federal court did, because the federal court said that the city of Cincinnati violated Washington's due process rights in his wrongful termination lawsuit. So no, I wasn't talking about the mayor or city council, Vernon. The federal court slapped her hand. That's who slapped her hand.
Hey, and I agree with that. I think someone, and I normally don't look at the chat, someone said, how can the city manager get a good rating on crime reduction, but the chief didn't? I think they looked at the chief was, what is that word? How people felt about what she was doing. Like, I think there was a lot of surveys and a lot of questions about how she was showing up for the people she managed. Do you know what I'm saying? So it was bigger than just the crime piece for her. It was like her cultural survey. So I think there was a lot going on. I don't know everything that was happening with that. I don't know who's right or who's wrong with that, but I'm just saying, taking it and putting it in city council's hand is not going to change it, because they actually agreed with what she's doing just by the nature of what they have actually said in her performance in just last month, if that's making any sense. But I think it was called her culture survey, maybe. It was called something, but she didn't do very well.
Climate. It was
climate. I couldn't think of it was climate. So I think it's bigger than, and it's very easy to pick a side. It's just easy. But I think we should go to the data. What did they use to actually say she's doing a good job? So go look at it.
Let's move on. So CPS is, and I applaud CPS for this endeavor, even when they're dealing with, cutbacks and having to rethink their services and what they can offer to the families of Cincinnati. But they have now created a safe lot for unhoused families. It's going to be over at Taft Elementary, if folks know where that's at. And as I understand it, essentially there are so many homeless people, unhoused people, should I say, and they're also students of CPS, so students and families unhoused. And now CPS, as Cincinnati Public Schools, is going to do something about it. So they're going to create like a lot where you can come, they can sleep there. They're going to have security there as well. And I'm thinking, wow, this just seems like such an abject indictment on Cincinnati, that we're at a place where the Cincinnati Public Schools, we have so many unhoused children and their families that now CPS has to pick up the tab to create a safe space for them to even sleep. Mm-hmm. Yet we're an NFL city, we're an MLB city, we're an MLS city,
Fortune 500
NFL city. We got all this wealth around us. I mean, just drive around some of these neighborhoods. People are living incredibly well. How is this possible in a city like Cincinnati that has so much wealth? Or is that?
And we gave $8 million to Anderson.
Quick question. Is the I didn't get this from the story. Is the lot limited to families who have a kid in CPS, or just any unhoused families?
It's limited. It only can accommodate a couple dozen. I think it's very limited.
What I'm saying is it limited to that criteria as opposed to the first family that shows up.
I think it's first come, first serve with children. I don't think.
But what I mean is they have to have children in CPS though.
No, I don't think it has to be a CPS student. Any student aged child is my understanding. School age child.
What about the concept of meeting someone where they're at? You know, I mean, I get what we're saying. How do we get there in the land in Cincinnati, where we're a very wealthy place? But why not offer? I mean, this could be just like something that they're an idea. You know, it doesn't have to be something that's long. Try. It's something that you try. In city government, I'm a person who thinks you should try many different things. And if there's a need of, if CPS has shown studies that they are finding a need of homeless people, then they need a lot for this, and they have the facilities for it, and they want to try it. I say, why not try it? I mean, it could be something that could be groundbreaking and could be something that could be adopted all over the place. But why not try?
Yeah, it's not that it's a bad idea. I think Nathan's point, and I think I said this very thing when we talked about this a few months ago when the idea first came forward. I agree with Nathan. It's an indictment. And I said this not as a criticism of what CPS is doing, because I think they're trying to come up with what they can do to solve a problem that they know exists with their students within the district, which is a large number of students who are homeless, right? We've reported on this extensively at the Inquirer. And it is an indictment on this community that a sleep lot is the best that we can do. I mean, and again, I'm not saying this is a criticism of CPS. I applaud them for trying to do something, but that shouldn't be the best that we can do as a city of Cincinnati for our kids who are homeless. Look, we just got to admit that there is a real problem that people have with homeless people here in whether we're talking about grown adults or whether it's kids. There's kind of a callousness, there's a coldness, there's a kind of, we don't give a rip about homeless folks in Cincinnati, whether it's running them out of downtown, running them out of tent cities that they create, running them out from under bridges, not having enough facilities to house homeless people. There's just, whether it's getting them off of the exits because they're panhandling, there is a contempt for homelessness, and we might as well quit lying about it. Right? We might as well quit acting like there's all of this benevolence and all the poor homeless people, because none of that shows up in what we collectively as a community are doing to address it. And we're now seeing it with our kids. And so I'd love to see all of this money that we've got in this community that can go to every place else to figure out some ways in which we can provide some temporary housing or shelter or whatever until people can get on their feet, particularly for our kids. Because if we can't do it for our kids, then
well, this all we have a 100% Democratic city council that is, in my view, I call them corporate Democrats. None of these people have taken up affordable housing as they'll talk about it, like Mika Owens even talked about it, I think, at the debate. It's just like, show me the money. Where is it? Where's the investment? Nothing. For years, people tried to work on inclusionary zoning policies. We are considered a very eviction-friendly city. We have an eviction court at Hamilton County Courthouse that is overflowing every time there's an eviction court hearing. It is standing room only. One of the magistrates doesn't even allow children in the courtroom. You have to keep your kids out on the bench in the hallway because there's no room. We have a crisis, and none of these elected officials are dealing with it. And worse yet, their budgets are refusing to take it up. Like you just said, they're giving $8 million to some other crap. We talk about corporate welfare. We have a lot of corporate welfare in this city that happens. We have millions upon millions of dollars that is given to the business community. Social services has been underfunded, defunded, and it's just atrocious that we have 9 people who call themselves Democrats, and we have a sleep lot being proposed and trying to be built by the public school district. It is an indictment, and I just don't get where the demand is. But like you said, Kevin, I guess people just don't give a crap. I guess they don't care.
This sleep lot. Let me ask you a question. What happens if a person doesn't have a car? What are they doing?
So let's talk about the sleep lot, because I think here's the one thing. So first of all, we know there's not a long-term strategy right now. when it comes to affordable housing, that we really need some long term. In the interim, everyone has to do short term things for survival. So when you think about the lot, what the lot does is not just a place to sleep, it's helping them find a permanent place as well, and is doing things even educationally while you're in there. So you have to read about what they're doing. And I do think part of what CPS had to do was use part of what the city is doing to make it happen. It is solving a very short, it is short term. It might be short sighted, but it's something. And this is what happens. Even when people do something, people complain about something. Right now, we're complaining about something. I agree that it is a problem that we're here and we haven't solved for it long term. Part of the problem is we've caused some of it. Walk through downtown and what we've done downtown. Walk through how we've built it up and pushed people out. Like we caused some of this.
Well, not we. I'm not claiming it.
I'm going to say this is what I mean by we.
Some of us have done that.
What I say we is, I'm not saying just us on the phone. I am saying we collectively as a city. So I can't say Democrat, Republican. It's been happening for years. It has been driving this route for years. And now we don't have enough housing, but we don't have a solid long-term solution. So in the meantime, there has to be these moments, magical moments that's short, that we have to embrace and not criticize, because what happens if we're criticizing is those things people think we shouldn't have done those little things.
No, I'm not criticizing CPS at all. I'm criticizing the city.
Okay.
Yeah, don't mistake.
I agree. I think we voted on this DC and the Port Authority. I know, you know, when I was on council, and I'm gonna be honest, I voted for 3CDC and Port Authority. However, never in my wildest mind did I think the 3CDC and the Port Authority was going to be this animal that it is today. And I think that is what it. Yeah, a monster. Yes, I agree. I think that is because we all thought it was great. It was going to come in and do a couple things, but now 3CDC and Port Authority has taken over everything, every neighborhood they're in. And I think at some point I don't know how council can stop that, but they have to, because that is one of the problems as well. Because I definitely agree with you, Landis, that we have definitely caused them to push the people out of the city, and then we're wondering where they're going to go. Well, it's our fault. We pushed them out. We pushed them out of their homes. We allowed 3CDC and the Port Authority to come in and take over these places. And now you're wondering where they're going to go. It's because we didn't have a backup plan for where these people were going to go when we pushed them out.
And the Port Authority, let's be clear, they are a quasi-governmental entity that's literally created in the state, municipal code. It says quasi, but it's a governmental entity. And yet, and so this is how they don't have to pay taxes. They are shielded. They don't have to pay any taxes on any of their property. And you can download right now, thanks to the new Hamilton County auditor, Jessica Miranda, and the former auditor got this started, Bridget Kelly, rest in power. She, for the first time after Dusty Rhodes, put it in the public view where you can go on the auditor's website and download all the properties owned by the Port Authority and the millions upon millions of dollars that they do not pay in property taxes once they take control of a property. Right. Why is this relevant to schools? Because this is how we fund education, is through property taxes. And so shame on the Port Authority and 3CDC and all these quasi-governmental entities that are sucking the life and the revenues out of the city and also enriching themselves, right?
Who's being enriched? Aren't they a nonprofit? Who's being enriched?
Look at who's on their board. These are the biggest donors.
Yes.
So how much are they being paid? They may be rich people from other sources, but how much are they being paid by the Port Authority or the 3CDC?
It's an investment scheme. It's a total scheme.
Explain. What do you mean?
I don't have the time. You have a couple hours, because listen, it's a total scheme where they're buying up all this stuff. They issue these bonds.
But they're not owning it individually. I don't understand where the scheme is.
Okay, that's right. People don't understand where it is
Yeah,
a
I
scheme.
don't.
Okay, the Port Authority is a total
You
house
started.
of
You were
cards.
saying that these guys were people on the Port Authority or they're making money, and it sounds like you're saying no, that's not it. There's some scheme. So
Yeah,
tell
no,
us
they are making money. They're
how.
certainly making money because
Who?
they buy up. Okay, there's a lot of predatory foreclosures going on that the Port Authority does in this city. It used to be if you got behind on your mortgage, you could work with the entity.
You're still not answering the question.
They are taking people's properties very quickly.
Why? How are they making money? Who's making money?
Well,
They're
then you sell the properties, right? So you have the properties, and then you improve them, and then you sell them.
But
and
that
look
is
at the
for the
housing
benefit
market.
of the city of the county. These guys individually. Are you saying that the individuals that run these boards, that they themselves are making money off these deals?
Yes.
Tell us how.
They are
Give me an example.
They are making profit off of the system, right?
I don't know what that means, Michelle. I really don't know what that means.
Well, look,
Well,
I'll just
so
tell
here's
you
one
that.
Go ahead,
Go
Michelle. Finish. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish
No,
what
I
you-
mean, the Port Authority, like Lakita Cole brought it up, but this entity, it started off as it was supposed to just do brownfields, right? Properties that had chemical spills and that nobody wanted. Fast forward 20 years, the Port Authority now is probably the biggest landowner in this city. They're buying up whole blocks in our
For what
neighborhood.
purpose? For what purpose are they buying them up?
Well, they call it for redevelopment. And if
Okay.
you don't think that people aren't getting enriched by this, that's just crazy.
Private people, are you? I just want to clarify. Are you saying?
Well, where's the profit
the people
then?
who are running the Port Authority or running through CG that they are getting rich off these deals? Yes or no?
Yes. I am.
I'd like
what?
to see the evidence of that. That would be scandalous. It'd be like
Well,
Trump making money from
where are they dumping
Qatar.
money back into? So they're not paying taxes. Okay, let's take the soccer stadium. The soccer stadium is owned by the Port Authority so that Jeff Birding doesn't have to pay taxes on it. They have 31-year consecutive leases with the Port Authority.
Jeff Birding gets a salary that he pays tax on. What do
Listen,
you
Phil,
mean?
the Port Authority owns the FC soccer stadium property, and they don't pay taxes. They give us a check to CPS for $10,000 just to keep us quiet in that deal when it happened. That is the facts.
Okay,
So the Great American
you're still not backing up what
building.
you're accusing
This is
them
how
of.
people make money. I'm trying to tell you this.
All right, I'm trying to understand.
It's a tax dodge. Okay, these developers in the Great American Building, they were owned by the Port Authority for 7 years until there's a law on the books that says the Port Authority cannot own one property.
But can we be honest, though,
for more than 1 year?
That every development, every major development that happens in this city is a tax dodge.
But,
tax dodges are the fare of the day. Whether it's the Port Authority, whether it's 3CDC, whether it's the Bengals, whether it's whomever. Any major development that comes into the city of Cincinnati is a tax dodge. Hell, they're doing tax dodges. They're doing tax dodges for homes in Hyde Park. The tax dodge isn't new.
No,
I mean,
but
look,
who allowed Kevin? That is not a good answer. Okay?
No, I'm not saying that it's a good answer. I'm saying that is MO of how business and development gets done in Cincinnati and probably in a lot of other places.
Some places, but some places are better, and we can be better. And this is why we need people at City Hall who aren't going to continue the grift of what this kind of stuff is happening. And this is why our city has the most homeless children of any year ever. We are the worst this year. Over 4,000 of our students do not have housing. 4,000. So I reject that. Oh, well, this is just how it's done, and this is how.
So that's because of the Port Authority. They don't have housing.
No, I think. Wait, but what she's saying is when you aggregate it together, where's the problem and why can't we solve it? Now let's be clear when it comes to the port and everyone. Take a walk through Roseline, and you will see so many abandoned properties. Go to Avondale and you see it, and go try to buy them, and see how you get blocked. Go try it.
Thank you.
Just go try it and give me a call.
That's right.
At the end
They're
of
like
the
the
day,
mafia. They're like
who
the
owns
mafia.
it? Why? And why can't we open it up for people right now? Because we need affordable housing, and people think we just have to go build it. But go look at all those poor families that we can't even buy.
That's
And
right.
I've been trying to try to buy some of them. And
There's an African American pastor I talked to. He tried to buy a property next to his church, and the port blocked it. They wouldn't let him.
And here's another.
What is the port's plans for a particular these properties? They're not just like what's their plans? Do they have any?
So wait a minute. How does the port block a private entity or a private homeowner or business owner who wants to sell their property? How does the port do that?
Listen to this. I don't know who blocks it all, but here's a very case in point. You have a piece of property. I'll use Roseline. And actually, that property has been listed for over a year and a half, and it is 3 times how much it should be. 3 times is what they're asking for what it should cost.
Who owns it, though? Who owns it? Do they own it?
Different people own it, and sometimes they own it. Sometimes a person owns it with the company that's holding it. Here's the question. What are they holding it for?
Has that soccer stadium brought excitement and money into the city? Has it been a benefit?
Well, ask the 4,000 kids who are sitting outside.
Phil and Michelle, I'm not finished with my point. Don't ask another question to take me away from what I'm talking about. So, Phil, just calm down, right? Just calm down and let's finish.
Okay. Sorry, I'll get a hold of myself. Sorry.
I know you can do it. I know you can.
I can.
We are talking about homelessness. We are talking
about a sedative. Go ahead. All right.
Okay. We are talking about why there is so many abandoned properties. And we say we can't have homes for people. And we have 4 families sitting there that people can't buy. And I have tried to buy things and have gotten, and I don't get cut off mouth. I keep going, and I probably need to keep going to figure out why some of these things are happening. But it's a plan. I just don't know the plan. It's a plan why people block you. It's a plan why they holding on to a piece of property.
Can I say something now? Am I allowed?
That long corridor going up Reading Road means something.
Absolutely. I got a question. Absolutely if I go back 20 years or something, I remember over the Rhine being pretty much just a massive impoverished kind of high crime area, which it may still be high crime. Now everybody's been down there. It's unbelievable how many great restaurants and bars and everything.
So where do the people go?
Let me just ask the question. My question is, does 3CDC have anything to do with that revitalization?
Sure, they own 3CDC owns a bunch of stuff in OTR. Yeah.
What's your point?
Knows the answer to that, Phil. You know the answer to that.
My point is that Michelle and I guess Alanis are saying that these people on 3CDC are kind of making all this money.
Let me ask you
that. They appear to have
what is
done some great
3CDC
things.
doing for these homeless children who have been displaced?
Phil,
I mean,
they weren't put together. Their job wasn't to help homeless children.
Their job is they are the architects of displacement and gentrification. They made that happen.
The city is the architect. No. Your city and your elected officials are the architects of this, because they are the ones who empower and allow 3CDC to do what it does.
Yes, you're right.
So 3CDC can only do what they have been empowered to do by your elected officials, right?
They're not mine. I'm not claiming it.
Wait a minute. Let me get it out. I'll let you talk, Michelle, but I'm going to just say this. 3CDC and the port are doing exactly what they were put together and what they are empowered to do. And if you haven't been paying attention, Michelle, over the last 20 years or plus of what this city has been trying to do to transform Cincinnati, you're right. It absolutely does not include poor people. It does not include Black people. It does not include homeless people. I don't know why we're sitting here trying to pretend like we don't know what the main program has been
Kevin,
for the last ever since the riots back in 2001.
Look, people see and they go, yeah, there's more homeless kids than ever in this city. but I think it's of value to put the responsibility where it belongs, which
on
is
the elected officials.
and
On the
they're
elected
giving
officials.
a 100% preferred developer agreements to 3CDC wholesale, not allowing any competition even among developers. They hand over completely all development over over the Rhine to 3CDC. There was actually other smaller developers who were very upset by 3CDC continuing to get.
What was over the Rhine like before 3CDC, would you say? It was
We
a
know
desert.
what over the Rhine was like before. Look, again, can we just stop pretending here? We know
So
what
what is that supposed to mean?
after the
Okay, this is the
2001
false
riot.
argument. This is the problem.
Look, I'm going to explain.
No,
after
Kevin,
after the 2001 riots, it became very clear that the city had a plan for how they were going to transform over the Rhine. We had these same conversations. Remember when they moved the dropout center out of over the Rhine? And they were like, we're moving all of this stuff out of here. And you see what they've replaced it with. That is the plan for every other neighborhood. We've seen it in Madisonville. We see it in all of these other communities where they're replacing what is there with something else. This isn't new. This isn't a surprise. This is the strategy of what your elected officials. It's like every time you go to the ballot box, and this is my complaint. These are not the questions that voters are challenging residents with. None of this stuff came up in the last city council election, right? They were all talking about Donald Trump and MAGA and ICE. Nobody was talking about what you're talking about here, Michelle, about getting a hold of 3CDC and the Port Authority, which our elected officials have the ability to do, but they're not going to do.
If you look at their finance reports, the people who are on these boards are the donor class to our local politicians. So of course, they're not going to be talking about what they're up to and the problems that they're causing in our city. I mean, you're right.
But
we agree.
But where are the people at? The people are the ones who vote for. Yeah, they may have the backing of the donor class.
Here's the answer.
The donor class is not big enough alone to elect these folks.
Maybe if the Democratic Party represented the people, we would have more contest.
I will bet you $1 million that a lot of those people who are homeless did not vote. I'm just going to bet that there's a large percentage of them who voting wasn't on their bingo card, right? So what we're talking about right now is a solution, a long-term strategy for affordable housing and to ensure that the people who are living on the street, and honestly, I love kids, right? But I focus on adults. So when we start focusing on allowing adults to be adults and helping pull them up, they're pulling their kids with them. But what we do that's a little more sexier is focus on kids. But what we have to focus on is adults in a big way to help them be able, because this is generational that's happening. And it's not just white and black. I mean, not just black, it's white too. And it is happening and generations are becoming homeless. And so we really have to focus on that. But you can't tell me that there isn't something else going on, that you have so many abandoned properties. And right now, we don't have a plan for affordable housing. And so I don't know if it's...
it might be helpful to have, if I may ask, maybe the next time we have a...
I'm going to finish.
All right, finish, finish.
It has to be something. I'm not blaming one thing. I'm not blaming 3CDC. I'm not blaming the port. I'm not blaming the city. I'm blaming everyone who has a home.
I suggest on the next podcast, you have somebody from 3CDC.
Too. But then we're sitting here talking about whether CPS was right. They're solving for a problem people aren't solving for.
No, nobody has said that.
No, but I'm saying so. I know, but let me go back. They're solving for that. And it is an embarrassment to Nate's point. I didn't get to go to the second piece of what we were talking about. This is a shame that they have to solve for this because we haven't solved for it strategically. We have just been doing Band-Aids.
Nate, can I suggest on our next podcast that we have somebody from the Port Authority or 3CDC and let's ask the questions, let them explain. I think that'd be very helpful.
I mean, they're going to read from a script. They're going to be like,
I mean,
I see. So you don't want to hear their side of things.
We already hear their side. It's constant. That's all we hear. That's all.
Let's have them on the podcast, and then
how about this? Why don't you ask them to Why don't we do a FOIA?
So you don't want to have
But
them
you
on,
can't FOIA the Port Authority because they say they're private, but really they're a governmental entity, right? Can you FOIA? Why don't you ask the port to open their
No,
book?
why don't you ask them and we'll have them on this show?
I can't ask them because they tell me that they're a private corporation and they don't have to share nothing with me.
Let's have them on hot mic, and then you guys who are making these accusations can make them. In fairness to me, look,
I've never Mika Owens on here and have Mika, since she's running for public office and she wants to care about affordable housing, have Mika Owens come on here and ask her, hey, Mika, since you're sitting down at City Hall,
you're the one who
asked the Port Authority what's going on with this property.
You finish and I'll talk.
What's going on with our tax dollars? Why don't you do that?
Okay,
that would be helpful.
Are you done? Okay, here's the point.
You don't want a real solution.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Keep talking, Michelle. Are you done? Okay.
I was done when I was born.
Good. Okay. You began this whole issue by accusing the Port Authority. You didn't accuse Mika Owens. You accused the Port Authority, 3CDC, of basically profiting, okay, and not and being responsible for homeless kids. That was what you said. So I'm saying to Nate and Kevin, next show when we start up again, let's have somebody, the heads of each on, and then we can get their responses. You have the chance to ask them directly.
I want to see the book.
Excuse me, just a second. I have never hesitated when we have had people on as guests, whether it was Scotty Johnson or Iris Roll. I don't agree with them necessarily on things. I never said, oh, I don't want to have them on. I was willing to ask them questions and confront. So you ought to be willing too.
Go ahead, bring them on. I'm just saying. I mean, yeah, they'll tell us.
I'll be very interested in what their responses are to what you're saying. Very
I already know what it's going to be. Yeah.
Hey, can I ask a question? Someone in the chat said affordable housing are different than low income housing, and that affordable housing is what's causing the problem. Can someone explain to me that piece?
Well, so when you look at the affordable housing trust fund, right, that the city and the county have invested in, one of the biggest arguments is the housing that they're building actually reaching the people who need it the most, right? There's some number that they look at. What is it? 30% of AMI or something like that is what they're measuring at. So let's just say if they build 100 new houses, how many of those are actually going to be that's actually going to be housing that's still going to be able to be accessible by the poorest people in our community who need it? I don't know. I'm not gonna even attempt to toss out a number out of how many out of that 100, but it's low. It's like okay, and that's the argument is all this money that we're spending, is it actually reaching people at the lowest levels? Okay. What the city would argue and tell you, I call it trickle down housing. They seem to think that people who are at a certain level of housing will move into this new affordable that they're building, and the housing that they're in will then trickle down to those lower income folks. I don't see nobody's been able to produce, or I haven't seen any evidence that actually happens. And they would argue against me using that type of description of what's happening. But yes, that's the difference between low income housing and affordable housing. Is affordable, a lot of affordable that they're building, a lot of people would still say is not affordable to the people who need it most in Cincinnati.
Well, and the issue is you have the public sector in the market who's investing in building housing, right? Say I'm a landlord, or I'm going to build housing, I'm going to rent it out. I don't care what the public market, you want to spend your money as a developer, spend your money. Here's the issue. You come to the city and you ask for public dollars in the form of abatements, subsidies, breaks, with the port. I don't have to pay taxes then if I use you as my go-between, right? This is where the public concern comes in. And we look to our elected officials and say, why aren't you putting some constraints on public dollars? You're just giving out public monies and the public good for private for-profit entities who are building housing. And in a place where we barely have enough already, that's the frustration. Why are you incentivizing? Why are you spending precious public dollars in the housing market to prop up out of reach rents for most of your residents. So the area median income of Cincinnati is what, 50,000 a year? I mean, it's not that high, right? And that's what they say, 30% of that, you shouldn't pay more than 30% of your total income on housing. If you pay 30% or less, you live in affordable housing. That's the definition. Most people in the city are paying 70, 80, sometimes 90% of their total income just on housing. That's unaffordable. So that's the definition. And this council has done nothing. And worst yet, when community groups twice had a ballot initiative, they spent thousands of hours, volunteer hours, got 2 ballot initiatives to create an affordable housing trust fund pot where some of the money that we generate as a city would dump into it to form a pot to build affordable housing for the low income of our city. And do you know that the Democratic Party in this city and the Democrats on this council told people don't vote for it? It's bad for our city. That's crazy. That is crazy. So this city and these politicians and the people influencing them are doing nothing, and worse yet, building a whole lot of units. Do you know how much the rents are in that new development in Hyde Park they're talking about? It's like $3,200 a month for a 1-bedroom or something. And you know they're getting city subsidies to help them build that. And don't get me started on TIF districts, which is another way that they don't have to pay into the pot that funds our libraries, our mental health, our schools. I mean,
well, so one of the things I think, though, and being fair and in looking at this, let's just be honest about what it takes to build housing, okay? And there's a very real reality that there's no money in it for developers for low-income housing. Any developer will tell you that without some type of government subsidy,
right,
there's no money to be made in building affordable housing. So unless you have a developer who has a bleeding heart and a general sensitivity for wanting to take a loss or not make any money on building housing, you're going to get a minimal amount of affordable housing that's built that you hope that has to be built in large, dense projects where they can kind of work in low income housing into it. So the problem that Cincinnati has is they're never going to be able to develop and produce
that's
the
wrong,
large
Kevin.
quantity.
No, that is wrong. The problem in Cincinnati is this council is unwilling to incentivize low income development. That's the problem. They can if they want.
Well, again, I said, yeah, I mean, again, I said unless they can develop, you know, some type of subsidy that it won't get built without government subsidy.
There is a subsidy, but they choose to give it to higher end housing because they don't want a bunch of
higher end housing brings in more residents and businesses that have affluence that make money. Low income.
The theory. How is it working out for the 4,000?
Here's the reality. Okay, let's just be real, and we're all sensitive, right?
It's
I'm not
data,
insensitive
Kevin.
to this, but let's just be real. Low income doesn't generate money for the city. It doesn't. High incomes, businesses.
Listen, that's a lie too. Where are all these
employ people? Because they employ people. Look, the
true?
reality is residents suck money from cities. They don't generate money.
Wealthy people suck money from cities.
How do
Wealthy
residents
people suck money.
Period. Whether they're wealthy or they're poor, your residents take up the majority of your money because you have to provide services and all of these other things. Residents are a suck. Businesses and high wealth earners generate taxes that cities run.
Not if they're getting abated. If they're not paying their fair share, they're not paying in, Kevin. I'm not going to allow some lies.
Hey, look.
These have to be challenged.
People are going to say, hey, that's cold.
Points aren't real. It's a lie,
Kevin.
Kevin.
Economics.
Well, I'm not going to call it cool. I just don't know if I think it's true, though, Kevin. I mean, if you're a resident, you pay taxes on everything, sales taxes.
That's a county tax, whatever it's worth.
Okay.
Not a city.
There's no city tax when you purchase something?
No city sales tax.
Okay. So it's a plus for the county then.
It brings in money. Sales tax brings in money for the county. That's for sure.
And cities are inside a county. So it sounds like a plus to me.
I'm not saying that there aren't pluses, Nathan. I'm not saying that residents.
He's saying people that have more money are going to obviously spend more. And again, when you're talking about that soccer stadium or those restaurants and over the Rhine, they hire people. Okay, they hire a lot of people. Okay.
No, the soccer stadium does not hire a whole lot of people. Okay, that's a seasonal job. Those are part-time jobs. Those are not family supporting jobs that supports a middle-class family in the city.
So
okay,
you want to provide full-time jobs that are at a high pay? Is that what you want
I'm saying you want to incentivize a soccer stadium and say it's because of job creation. I'm going to say no, wrong answer. That's not actually creating good jobs, family supporting jobs where people can buy houses. It's that.
So what is your solution? You want people to have the money. You want all the lower income people to get the money to be able to buy a house. Where's the money come from for that? How's that work?
I'm saying City
Just
Hall
write a check to everybody who's low income.
All right, where did Jeff Burden get some of the money for that stadium? He got it through the hotel tax. Okay, he took a whole pot of money sitting down at City Hall and got John Cranley to hand it over to him to help build a for-profit soccer stadium that enriches him and his children and his grandchildren. Meanwhile, where did the hotel tax money go that could have gone to beautify our downtown or pay for our convention center or do some other improvements? No, it didn't go to the public good. It went to a private owner named Jeff Birding.
And who made that decision, Michelle? Who made that decision to do that?
John Cranley with a supportive city council.
Okay, goes back to my main point. Which I said in the beginning, are elected officials. I said that. I've been saying that for 5 minutes. You argued against me. You yelled against everything else. Only to come all the way back around to what my main point was, is that the folks who control whether this stuff happens or not are the people that the common average everyday citizen of Cincinnati votes for. And what I'm saying is if you don't like the direction of what the city is doing, what 3CDC or the Port Authority is doing, instead of complaining about them, go to your elected officials and elect elected officials who are going to rein them in and wrangle and move in a different direction, because that is who your problem is with, not with 3CDC. Those entities are set up. They're doing exactly what they're created to do. And they're following a plan that the elected leaders, the mayor, the city council, whatever, that they are moving Cincinnati into a direction. This is not like some clandestine, like, I don't know what people have been paying attention to. If you've been paying attention the last 25 years, the game plan is clear, what they're doing. Where they're the areas that they're focused
Kevin, where's the
on,
expose
where they're trying to
then?
preserve property until they can develop it and transform it into what they want, not what you want, not what the residents want. And whoever gets displaced and moved out of the way, right? That is going to be the unfortunate byproduct of progress. They put it in your face. They put it in the voters' face all the time. We see what they're doing in City West right now.
So I'm not sure what you're arguing. What are you arguing?
What my argument is we're talking about how do you control this? How do you set a new direction and create a difference from what we're doing? And to me, it starts at your local level of government, right? They're the ones who are pulling the levers and making the direction of where this city is going. Not 3CDC or like you're blaming everything on the port and 3CDC like they're operating.
I'm sorry, do you think
agents?
Come on, Kevin. You are giving these politicians a little too much credit.
Wait, so hold on for a second, because it's not one or the other. It is a whole lot of things that have to change to drive change. I agree with you, Kevin, that it's been the setup and we've seen it coming for a long time. But don't get it twisted, because corporate America is a part of it. Because honestly, if everyone agreed that the least you should make is $27 an hour, it would actually move people out of low income. It would do that.
Why don't we make it 50 an hour if it's that easy?
You know what, why don't you? Why don't you? Why don't
How about 75 bucks an hour? If it happens so
why
like
don't you?
that, let's do it.
Listen, I know, because listen to this. You get people get tax credits to save money in corporate America, in buying land, all kinds of places. So I'm saying, and don't get me wrong, jobs still have to be based on the level of the work you have to do. But as things have continued to go up, food prices, rent, everything has gone up, including what taxes, everything. But we haven't made a conscious decision to make what people make an hour go up.
So it's just, they can just vote on it. You're saying that you can vote on it and that they go up.
Yeah, but what
right?
you want to do is you want to talk about this versus this versus this. It is all of it to change it. It is a lot. It's not just, it is all of it. It's all of it. Honest to goodness. So if you have, I represent 150 Black artists. They're not all Black. 150 artists in this community who work hard. 17 of them last month were homeless. 2, we helped get a place.
Who do they work for?
Hold on for a second. They work hard. They work doing all kinds of jobs.
Who pays them?
Different people get paid from different things, but some of them work in the school system and make $19 an hour with 2 kids.
Oh, okay. So that CPS, if they really care, they ought to set a minimum of 27
You know what?
an hour.
I don't know whether it is age or your haircut, but something is keeping you from hearing. I don't know what it is, but I need to help you to hear and understand what I'm saying. What I'm saying
haircut.
And I say it when I see you, I think I'm going to have to pop you on the top of the head. This is so important, Phil. It's not.
I want to hear how everybody can make. But again, why stop at 27? Let's go
finish.
to 75 or 100.
I'm not going to keep yelling at you. Let me finish. Okay? And I understand it's hard for you because you are a normal Republican. We've talked about it. And I know you think.
It's like a disease.
You think that you only have to make corporations stronger and they're going to take care of their people. And what I'm telling you is that's bullcrap because it's not happening. So right now, when you look at inflation and everything that's going up, ask this question. Is your corporations doing their part? Because we do their part in making sure they get tax cuts and everything. So that's one piece. Is pay people and allow growth to grow with what's happening. Grocery has gone up 10% and most people get a 2.5% raise. Get out of here. So
just to summarize, you want to require companies.
You know what I want? I want you to be quiet and let me finish.
Okay, how long?
That's what I want.
Right.
I want you to stop, but I want you to understand. Don't argue each point. Look at that. We have a lot to do, but the first thing we have to agree is that we own changing this. We own changing this for people.
Yeah, but let's get specifics, though.
No, let me ask you this: what have you been doing for homeless people? What have
I been doing?
Yeah, what do you do for homeless people?
Well, I'll tell. Here's what I do. I mean, I'm not saying it's much. I go out, and again, I don't say I'm doing a great thing. What I do is I buy $250 or $120 McDonald's certificates, and when I drive by a homeless person and they're begging, I give them one or
That's
two.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Now look, but
okay.
I'm not home. No. Just a sec. You asked me a question. I'm not holding myself out as doing as much as I should, but that's okay. Though I don't think what I'm doing is relevant because you're talking about the government requiring a much higher minimum wage. Isn't that your point?
Well, that's one point, but let me ask you this question. So you went in and bought all these McDonald's gift certificates, which is great to give it out to people.
I'm not bragging about it. You asked me.
You know, and I think that's great that you're doing something, even though you're blocking something on the other side when you vote Republican, but you're doing something. That's cool. What I'm going to ask you this is
I actually vote for a lot of Democrats. But that's beside the point.
So ask your question this: is McDonald's paying their people enough?
Enough?
Yeah.
I'm assuming, and when you say enough, I don't know what does enough mean?
Let's think about this. Low income has to do with anything 40,000 and under these days. It's creeping up to 50.
Just to answer the question, what's enough?
Well, I'm giving you the information to allow you to decide.
No, I just want to know what the wage is enough. You're saying isn't enough.
Okay, so $50,000 and up moves you from low income to getting out to middle, right? So how much do you need to raise a family of 3?
Well, you tell us what hourly wage you want to require McDonald's to pay.
I'm just saying, is McDonald's? You're buying it.
Landis, here's the problem with it. Here's the problem with what Landis. Here's the problem with Landis's question about McDonald's. Let me just say this, Phil.
I only use McDonald's because that's
real quick about why Landis's question about McDonald's I get where she's getting at, but that's the wrong example to use, because here's what the problem is. You're exactly right, Alandis. Is the bottom line is people don't make not enough people make a livable wage to be able to survive today. And that's not McDonald's fault.
And I agree with that.
Wait a minute, Phil. That's not McDonald's fault. That's not Walmart's fault. That's not Kroger's fault. And the reason why I say that is because the jobs that those types of places employ were generally never meant to be jobs that families lived off of. They've become that. Because we don't have the manufacturing base that we once had in this country that employed millions of people who worked at the auto plants, who worked at the paper mills, who worked at the steel mills, and who didn't need a college degree, to make $50,000, $60,000 a year doing that kind of work. Those jobs no longer exist in the coal mines. Those jobs no longer exist to the magnitude that they did, 40, 50 years ago in this country. And they never have been replaced. And the jobs that they have been replaced with require a greater degree of education than the average American has. Those Americans who have those jobs, who have those requirements, have those jobs, and they make good money. They're not struggling right now. But everybody who used to work in those factories and in those other places where they're the ones who wind up at McDonald's and Kroger's and Walmart now. And you're asking those people to pay wages commensurate with what a factory would pay. And that's just not how
they are making the money, though. Don't get it.
They always made the money, but they're not.
Don't listen. I use Phil's example because he used McDonald's. But Kevin, you did wrong.
No, you brought up McDonald's.
You brought up McDonald's because you said you buy them McDonald's gift card. Isn't that what he said? He said he buys money.
I'll buy Burger King next time. That's not the point.
So it wasn't the point. It was what I was using, Phil. So don't.
But let's just be real,
like that. Kevin.
Nobody is going to pay you $50,000 to do fries at McDonald's. They just not. That's ridiculous.
I know, but
it's
Kevin,
ridiculous.
Look at the margin that they're making, and look at how much you pay for Burger King.
Okay.
Look at how much you pay.
If you think serving fries is a $50,000 a year job, then I should be making $200,000. I'm just saying you're not going to pay somebody that kind of money to do fries.
Why shouldn't
you know what? And maybe you should, because inflation is outgrowing and pacing us, which is one of the causes of working people to be homeless. See, working people used to be thought of as drug addicts or mental illness. There are working people working their butts off that don't have a place to live. And that's because rent has gone up at a larger rate than what people get paid. So don't get it twisted. McDonald's, how much it costs for a Big Mac? It sure don't cost what they used to pay us $12 to do them. They've taken it up and they're not passing it on. We don't even make them. So start there. But that's not the only problem. It is 100 different things, and it's not just one. So the question is, does Cincinnati owe us a strategy to help get us out of homelessness?
Yeah.
Do they owe it?
I think that there's nothing wrong with somebody making $50,000 flipping fries, working at a fast food restaurant. If you just crunch the numbers real quick in your own head, if somebody makes $20 an hour, they put in 40 hours a week, that's approximately about $41,000 per year. So it's not too far off. And I think we just devalue these folks like, oh, it's just flipping fries. Now, these are people that's, that's the American dream. That's just where they are right now, but they work hard.
But it wasn't, those types of jobs, it's an indictment. Again, those types of jobs, fast food jobs, when we were coming along, when I was working there, the only adults that were there were the managers. Most of those jobs were occupied by teenagers and high school. That's what those jobs were.
Those times have
changed. They were low wage jobs that were
That's what they were.
Like younger people.
Yeah, but within our lifetime, Kevin, that has changed.
Absolutely, it has. And I told you exactly why.
The economy has left people out. So you got a whole bunch of grown folks raising families, grandma, and they work fast food. And I think they deserve a livable wage.
They deserve is an opportunity for better jobs. What they deserve is an opportunity for better jobs. Because I guarantee,
there should always be opportunity.
I guarantee you that it's nobody's lifelong ambition to flip fries at McDonald's. I'm
But
just
if
sorry.
it is there,
No,
but that's not the point. The
But
point
they gotta pay the same.
whether it be their
I understand
ambition,
people got to pay their bills. What I'm
whether
saying
it be
is,
their
it's
ambition
left to
or
their
their
devices.
circumstances. The reality is
they
this,
still
y'all.
owe daycare. When they
The
leave
reality
their
is
house,
this. Whether that be their ambition or that's just where they end up in life, they still deserve a wage that is commiserate to the profits that they making for some of these big corporations.
Come on,
so,
man. So
the
Nathan, how do you equate? So there's a difference between
I equate it this way.
There's a difference between me being Patrick Mahomes and LeBron James and
no
directly having an impact in how much my owner is making and me
There's
flipping burgers and serving fries. Like
There's
how
no
do you
difference whatsoever.
how do you commensurate my value to McDonald's overall profits
very easily
by me serving
very
fries?
easily.
Come on, bro. That ain't
Very
even
easy.
that's
I
a
can do it
laughable
very, very
comparison.
easily because when people go through that drive-through, when they go through that experience and they get that burger and fries and they eat it, that experience is valuable. There's a profit margin attached to that. And all I'm saying is that workers, even on the so-called bottom, should enjoy some of the profits just like the people at the top. You can't put how do you put a dollar amount on that 15 minutes of pleasure that I get from enjoying my favorite burger and my favorite hot fries?
I think pleasure is not quite the right word. It's
pleasure is exactly the word.
Like
pleasure is exactly the word, and that's the reason why the people that create these fast food industries, they know what the bliss point is in terms of the human body chemistry and when you're eating certain foods and how those chemistry, how that food hits your body and the euphoria that you feel. You ain't going there just because you're hungry. You're going there because you get pleasure out of it. And so they provide pleasure for millions of people. You can call it fast food, but it's pleasure. And so they should get some of the profits as well. One of the biggest lies that Republicans like Phil like to tell us.
Oh, there he goes.
Yeah, I got to take it back to Phil.
Stereotyping me like,
one of the biggest lies that Republicans like Phil and perhaps terrorists, I'm dragging you into, they love to tell us, is that if you pay workers more, you're going to bankrupt the businesses. That's a lie. Look at what happened in California. 2 years ago, they put a minimum wage of $20 on all fast food workers, and they ain't leaving. Fast food companies aren't leaving California.
They're about to go up too again, aren't they?
Ours is still $11. Man, get out of here. Really and truly. If you're not going to put a minimum wage and make it appropriate, then you have to look at people and see how much they make and say, if McDonald's is making X amount, they need to pay their workers X. But we're not even strong enough to do something about minimum wage in Ohio and actually say, you need to make X. We won't touch it. So I'm not asking you to go work for McDonald's, and I'm not talking about McDonald's people. I just use McDonald's as an example. But the other thing is you have rent issues that need to be addressed. You have, why can't I go by this 4-family who's blocking it? You have land locks. You have a lot going on. And all I'm saying is we deserve a strategy. We deserve a strategy to get us to a better place. And in the meantime, CPS has to do what they have to do. And we need to support the quick magic that people try to win just to help us along.
CPS deserve all kinds of praise for what
they do.
Doing.
They do.
But again, it's a complete and utter indictment on, I don't know what you want to call it, capitalism, the city of Cincinnati. I mean, we got all of it. We got the NFL, we got the MLB, we got the MLS, we got all of this, and yet we got homeless kids sleeping in a lot.
You know, Nathan, a lot of times, Nathan,
how is that successful?
You sound like you're a little left of Mao. I think you need to kind of, bring it back a little. I mean,
left of Mao. No, but like I was saying, it's a grand indictment on this city and how we measure success. How can we call ourselves a successful city and you got unhoused families in an open air lot and we think this is okay? And you have all this wealth around this city. What do we prioritize? We got a $600 million surplus of unclaimed funds for the state of Ohio, but yet we can't find the funds to help these people out, but we want to call ourselves successful. I just use a different I use a different set of numbers because that ain't success in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. None.
And salaries need to keep up with inflation. They need to, and we
Yeah.
haven't driven that.
That's all I got. I was hoping for you and Terrace to get into it, and Terrace has been you've been way too quiet.
Listen,
up in the
after
corner.
after what happened last week, Terrace has been in therapy. Okay,
He is way too
he's got to
quiet
be
up
in
in
for
the
a couple
corner.
of
You ain't
months. So give
saying
the guy a
nothing.
break. He went through a lot last week.
Landis and I had a conversation before camera that I was going to say on camera, but I ain't the type of person who got to put my business out there like that. We said we had to say. I ain't got no bad. I ain't got this. All these situations were about Cincinnati. Well, I'm in Kentucky. If it's warranted for me to say something about something that goes on over there, or
let's talk about Trump then, so I can get y'all into it.
Well, he has Candace on his T-shirt. I did keep that out, but I already said something about that off camera or in our little pre-thing.
Not Candace Owens?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I've got a plethora of things going on. I got Candace Owens over here. I got Iris Rowley back here behind me right here. I got Mia, you know what I'm saying? I got
okay, I see.
I got Iris back here. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I got a lot of stuff going on in my in my thing. But y'all were talking about Cincinnati issues, and I don't live in Cincinnati, so I'm not trying to
get
things that I'm not talking. I mean, but if it was relevant, or like I will say this about the 3CDC blocking Atlantis, it's over inflated property 3 times percent. Let's say if it's worth $100,000 and they want $300,000 for it, they can take that $300,000 to the bank and get a loan or whatever. It's a property that is future property, so it's inflated, so they can say we have this much wealth. It's what Trump was doing. Trump got in trouble for. So it could be on the same lines of the same thing. They buy this property up. They say they overinflate it, so nobody will buy it. Somebody tries to buy it, they block it, so they can take it to the bank as assets, borrow off of that asset, so they can create more wealth amongst themselves. That's what I was thinking in your situation. You're just like, why would somebody block it? I'm like, yeah, they probably block it because they don't want to sell it because they use that as leverage for other business economic stuff. But that's the only thing that I have for that whole thing about Cincinnati.
All right, I've just had to drag you into something. That's all.
No, I'm
just
good.
stirring the pot. That's all I got, folks. We're over our time limit. If we want to keep going, if anybody wants to bring something up, if something needs to be discussed,
may I have a quick?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I'll make it quick. First of all, I do think, even though I agree 100% with Kevin's point that 3CDC and all those groups, they report to elected officials. At the same time, though, I really do believe, given what's been said here about them and what they do and how they, all that, I do think I would really request that you do have somebody like the top people from those two on, because I really think we'll learn something from it. I don't know that much, truthfully, about how they work, but I think it would be good to get the facts on that. I also would just say that what Kevin said about the change in this country, losing the manufacturing base it's just a hard truth, and I'm not sure how to reverse that, but that really is the bottom line. And one final thing, just to answer the question about how are things different aside from the racism, but say from the 60s, 50s to now, aside from that, why are people not, and Alandis and actually, and Michelle, everybody's 100% correct. Okay. Basically, we're losing the middle class in this country. People are not able to live off what they're making. There's no question about that. But the question is, but why is that? And I'm not saying there are simple answers, and you're going to think I'm a little whacked out here, but I really believe you go back to like early 70s, and if you were a police officer or a teacher or somebody, or even somebody, a taxi driver, those people could buy houses then. Do you know that? They could provide for their families, and they can't now. And this is, I really believe this. I think one of the worst mistakes or decisions that was made by our government was when Nixon took us off the gold standard. You may say, what the hell does that all mean? Because since then, it has allowed our government to print and borrow unlimited amounts of money. And that is the principal reason why things have continually gone up so much. And I know that's bringing up a whole subject. We can do it and talk about it another time. I just want to be clear. I am agreeing with what Alandis and others have said, that people cannot make it on what they're making. I'm just saying there are some deeper long-term reasons for it.
And I do think that Republicans should hold corporations and companies accountable to paying people more money. The people at the top are walking away with more money than they even need. And I know you might be looking like that because some of them are your cousins and your uncles, but let's get over that. Because honestly, people should pay you based on what's going on in today's economy. We should have to. And if you do that, that fixes a lot of stuff.
So here's what I think about that, and here's kind of the reality is I agree with you 100% when it comes to big corporations. What you're going to run into is the smaller mom and pop businesses who will say that we cannot afford to stay open if we have to pay people $22 an hour. Now you might think like, well, you shouldn't be in business or you shouldn't be open if you can't afford to pay people a certain amount. Well, you can say that, and then you're going to have a lot fewer businesses that are going to cater to people. And then that's going to, the side product of that is what Phil always talks about is competition, right? You know, the big brothers of this world. It's why Walmart can afford to charge you $300 for a 70-inch TV. But if you went to a small mom and pop electronics store, that it would be like buying, you know, might be like buying a small car, you know, to get that same television there, because the costs and everything are a little bit different. And so when you hear pushback from like chambers of commerce and things of that nature, it's not always the big corporations are the benefactor of the fact that the smaller guys can't afford to pay those larger increased salaries. And that's the catch-22. So how do you come up with something that says, okay, big corporations have to pay more, but we're going to protect small businesses so that they can compete and that they can stay in business? I don't know if that's possible. I don't even know if that's
I agree.
Oh, it's possible.
I agree. And it's possible because we're smart enough to do it. And what I'm saying is maybe it is just about like, if your company makes this much as this, but this is what I'll say. Under this current like Republican administration, they won't even touch that. And then most of us won't talk about it because we're scared of corporations. We're scared of that because they kind of get you in office. But what I'm saying is we have to do something. And we're smart enough to figure something out where we don't harm small businesses as well, because I agree. And I agree sometimes there's unintended consequences. I don't think that should be one because some of the hardest workers are those small businesses. But I do think we have to do something. McDonald's makes a lot of money, a whole lot of money, a whole lot of money.
Somebody's in the chat trying to get in here. I just wanted to let him know that we're about to get off here. You know, somebody was like, talking about that, like, but somebody was in the chat to say that.
We're about to step off for. This is going to be our last episode between now and then season 3, which will start approximately the 3rd week of May. So about 3.5-4 weeks off, and we'll be back and hopefully better than ever in May for the start of season 3.
Can I say Nathan?
Sure.
Oh, go ahead. I want Tara to say something, and then I want to say something because I want to leave somebody in the chat with something to chew on until we come back.
All right.
1 minute. Like I have a couple initiatives that I couldn't talk about before, but I can talk about now. I'm taking my mobile van to the VA hospital to cut the homeless VA's hair, and I'm taking it to the children's home up there in Northern Kentucky Children's Home. People have asked me how they can get involved. I'm going to be unveiling how you can support a veteran, and I'm doing this. I'm taking the van. It's going to be a whole experience for them to give back so they can feel good and give back mental healthily. 30 minutes completely designed for the soldiers, the veterans, and for the Boys and Girls Club people. So if you see that in my programming, please like, share. You don't even have to get involved if that way, but if you do have any resources that you can get involved, I couldn't talk about it before, but I can talk about it now. So if you want to get involved in any way, please reach out to me directly, or I'll have links for you to go and you can find out everything you need to know about the initiative, Haircuts for Heroes. So that's just all I wanted to leave you guys with.
That's so cool.
Right. Anybody else? I think.
Yeah. Hey, so I'm gonna just close out. I got a little something here for Black Lion because Black Lion he been in the chat all season trying to get at me, and I'm gonna just get this to Black Lion because he called me a whole ass sucker in the chat today, and that don't bother me. And that don't bother me because I don't generally tend to fall for that kind of stuff, especially from people like Black Lion. But here's what I want to say. Black Lion is always up in here talking about this pro-black stuff and the colonizer and all of that. Brother, let me just ask you this. Do you pay taxes? Do you own a home in this country? Do you have any land that you own that's here in these United States? Do you work for somebody, brother? Because if you do any of that, you part of the same system that you claim that you're against. You're propping up the colonizer. So you a whole ass sucker, Black Lion. You a whole ass sucker and a fraud. And a fraud, brother, because you talk all that pro-black stuff and you probably buy as much from the white man or support the white man as anybody on this podcast. So suck on that, Black Lion, till we come back for the next season. Peace.
And with that, we out. Appreciate everybody.
All right, see you guys.
Have a great Friday, great